Micros, Betty. Hello, hello, hello. I'm trying to see if you can hear me. Can you hear me? I can't hear you. Okay, hold on a second. Okay, can you talk? I can't hear you. Okay, hold on a second. Can you hear me? Okay, hold on. Okay, I want to do my camera. What am I doing wrong tonight? It's like, I can't hear you. Can you hear me? You can hear me. Okay, hold on a second. Okay, your host has stopped the video. Okay. So you have to let me do video. I don't know. I can't hear you though.
All right, hold
I
on.
can't figure out why. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, I can't hear you. This was good because last week no one could hear me. That was worse. Let me just see.
So you
I'm
can't
trying to
hear
start
me.
my video and it's not allowing me. You have to allow me to use my video.
Okay, hold on.
Okay. And now, let's see if I
Okay,
can do
now
my
let's
video.
see. Let me make you the
I
co.
can't start my video because you stopped it.
Okay, hold on.
I still can't hear you, so I can't figure out why. That's a problem. Let's see if I can just start video. Okay, video's up there. Okay, now I still can't hear you though. You
My
can hear me.
microphone works.
You can hear me.
I can hear you.
Okay, good. Last week I couldn't, nobody could hear me. Okay, let me try to think of where it could be. It could just be, wait a second, let me try. I've got my video my sound all the way up.
I tested my microphone and it was working.
I'm trying to lip read. I'm trying to lip read.
Give me your cell.
Do you want to call me? Yeah, call me. 908 581 6202. Hi, Claudia.
Hi, how are you?
Oh, wait. Okay, now I just had it on. Never mind. I had it on that on something else. I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna read lips.
I test my microphone and it says I'm fine. So
Okay.
I don't know what's going on.
I don't know what's going on either. Okay, so let me just see. Can't hear it though. And I have the sound up. Let me see. Oh, this is such a pain. I tell you, I hate Zoom.
I
For
know.
one reason, they do all these crazy things. You know what I mean?
All right, so wait.
That's you. Okay,
Right.
somebody.
All right, I'm testing my microphone. Testing.
Okay, but I can't hear it. Nope. Can't. And I should be able to hear you.
Yes.
Okay, hold on. And my speakers are all the way up. Like I heard the ding.
You heard the thing.
On my side, I heard the ding. Oh shoot, now I just lost you. Wait, I'm gonna bring my Zoom back up. I don't know what is going on. Last week, wait, do you have, this sounds like really crazy. Look on your controls up on top and see if your mic is off, like just the mic thing on the top of like the laptop or whatever, because I managed to do that last week.
All right.
Like we're on the keyboard down below. I managed to turn the mic off.
Okay, let's see.
I didn't hear that way.
Zoom device test is using your microphone.
Oh, this is so weird. Is Mary on as well? Like, could she hear you?
She's not on, but I have
Okay.
somebody else coming in a minute.
All right. So if I go all the way up, maybe do some stupid, I'm hearing other sounds. You know what I mean? It's just not
That's
the
so
Zoom.
weird.
No, there's not the Zoom sound. And there are 8 people, they say, on right now.
And there's people in the room with us. That's how
Okay.
we're doing it that way too.
Okay.
So we can hear you.
Oh, if you can hear me, that's a good sign, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's a good sign. And then all of a sudden you'll do something, and then all of a sudden I'll just start talking. You just go like this. Wait. Was that turquoise nails you have on there?
I do.
I'm very impressed. I was in the city today seeing Lisa C.
Really?
Yes, she was in Bryant Park. It was great. It was
Oh,
fun.
I saw that on her schedule.
Yeah.
that's so cool.
Yeah, she's like been gone for like 2 weeks. It's nuts, her schedule. But she hit the list again this week, second week.
She what?
Second
Did
week on
she
the New York
really?
Times list. Yep, 11 this week, 5 last week. This is very good.
Okay. I'm trying to see if there's anything in that, like,
I know and I'm seeing that there's like you're talking, but Let me just see if there's anything else I can do.
yeah, I'm going to the morgue to see.
Some entry, don't know.
Oh, Jan, here you are. Carol cannot hear me. We're on the phone, so she can hear me, but I've tested the microphone. We're not muted. Like my microphone even has like the thing that it hears me.
Yeah.
She can't hear me except through the phone.
Trying to think of what that is. It's not.
I said we can hear her fine. She has her.
Let me just try. Wait. Let me try something else. Hold on. Just want to try. Okay.
Well, once you get started.
I hear you now.
You do?
Hear you now. Yeah, I changed the setting. All right, we're gonna hang up. Sorry, I changed the setting. Sorry.
Okay.
It's tech. You know, I hate it. I hate it.
So we have people sitting in the room with us.
Okay.
And then there's 6 people, but we have 50 something signed up. So
Fantastic.
we'll
So
wait a few minutes.
is everybody going to be there or some
No,
people?
it's going to be a combo.
Oh, how fantastic. What a good idea.
Yeah.
What a good idea. And
You know, some people just want to get out of the house and not watch from their
little houses. You and I have to catch up personally someday soon too, you know?
That would be great.
Yeah, we have not done that. And I don't see are you going to ALA?
No.
Are a lot of
I don't know that anybody is from here.
I hear like no one, like people are reaching out to me. Are you going? And I'm like, no, you know.
I don't know.
I've sit and watch all these authors all day long. I watch so many events virtually that I'm watching stuff all day long.
And
it's great. I sit and take notes and I don't have to go to the city. Today I went to the city. I was like, how did I do this for 42 years?
Oh my God, I don't know how you did that for so
long. I must have been crazy because I was exhausted. You know, I was like, oh my God, I'm trapped, you know?
Yeah.
Do we want to do
you know
this?
what? I think we're going to have to work on the volume in this room though. I have to look where.
Do you want me to do share screen? Do you want me to do the share screen thing?
I've
got my PowerPoint.
Yeah.
What'd you say? What?
We just want you.
Oh, you just want me? You don't want the PowerPoint?
Oh yeah, we want the PowerPoint. Yeah. So you're co-host. So you share it.
Do it. Okay, right. That was so funny. I'm like, don't you want the PowerPoint? I think you want the PowerPoint.
No, we want that.
Okay, let's see. There we go. Okay, let me go to look at this. Let me move this down. Move it back in a second. Slideshow from beginning. There we go.
We don't have the volume on.
Okay, here. Can we hear me when we talk louder?
No, I think we just have to do a setting.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this is the longest day of the year, just so we know.
That's
or
right.
daylight. Daylight.
Oh, the speakers, maybe the speakers aren't on. Hi, Mary. Carol, just say something.
Hello.
No. Try now, Carol.
Sign out. Wait, what do you want me to do?
Just what you're doing.
Just keep talking. Just keep talking. Okay.
Keep talking.
Keep talking. Oh, I'm so excited to be sharing these books tonight. We've got a great lineup for you. Some I've read, some I haven't, some I'm excited about. Some are coming later this summer. It's going to be a great list. Is that any better? Oh, look, you really don't want to see the top of that cabinet. It's a little bit messy decorated. Very excited. I think we have like 40 books that I'm going to be talking about tonight. 40, I think. It should really add up. And lots of exciting things have been happening.
Hi, Carol. We're still waiting to get sound. How
You're
are
still
you?
trying to get sound good. How are you?
Why is there sound on this left? So is that
That may be what you want to do. Is
Yeah. Hold on one sec.
okay. This is good though. There was one library that I went to live recently and they told me to set up myself. I was like, with what? My mouth.
Say something, Carol. Oh, we're good.
Hello. Yes. How are we doing?
Okay, so we have to turn that up.
Okay. And I'll talk loudly, speak loudly. So let's see.
The one more, Carol.
Still need me talking? Talking. All right, let's see. Exciting lineup tonight, everybody. Everybody's got to get
Okay,
ready.
we're great. We're great.
Okay, we're good. Oof. This is exciting. I recognize that room. Big room. Woof. You know?
Okay. All right, so I'm gonna welcome everybody. I'm gonna say hi. I'm Claudia Silk from the Fair. How do we do it that we don't have all this kickback? We have so much feedback. Okay. Carol, you're gonna introduce yourself and you're gonna get started.
How we get through it. Okay, great. Perfect. Hi, everyone. I'm Carol Fitzgerald from the Book Report Network. We have our websites are Book Reporter and readinggroupguides.com, and I'm the host of the Book Reporter Talks to Video podcast series. I'm so delighted to be here, even from my house, but I can picture that room up in Fairfield, and to be presenting summer reading to you tonight. Got a great lineup of books. I'm hoping that you're going to have lots of books that you're going to be ready to reserve at the library, take out, enjoy, and read. So let's get started. Kicking off with some fiction. We're kicking off first with Yellowface. Yellowface is by R.F. Kuang. And I'm going to give you a little background on this book as well. When she wrote this book, it was really supposed to be a little, kind of like a coming to terms with publishing of this is what you're not doing for those of different ethnic backgrounds. This is what's happening. If you go right under a different name, look what happens for you, blah, blah, blah. Well, meanwhile, the book is also this fabulous Ramona Cleff about publishing and about what it's like when your best friend is on the New York Times list and you're not, and you have to act really excited and all these kinds of things. It's been on the New York Times list. I just saw, I think it's the 4th week or 5th week on the list. And I think it's just because it's so much fun about the insider game of publishing. So what we've got is 2 authors, June Hayward and Athena Liu, and they're supposed to be rising stars together. But Athena is a literary darling and June is literally nobody. So June witnesses Athena's death in a freak accident. She chokes on a pancake, folks. I mean, this is like, what happens. She acts on impulse and she steals Athena's just finished manuscript, an experimental novel about the unsung contributions of Chinese laborers during World War I. So what if June takes Athena's novel and sends it to her agent as her own work? So what if she lets her new publisher rebrand her as Juniper Song, complete with an ambiguously ethnic author photo? Doesn't this piece of history deserve to be told, whoever tells it? But June can't get away from Athena's shadow. Oh yes, lots of backtalk starts happening on the internet. Oh yes, she gets called out, and emerging evidence threatens to bring her stolen success down around with her. It's a terrific read. It's a brisk read, and there's a lot of insight into what happens in publishing. Next, we've got Little Monsters by Adrienne Brodeur. You may remember her memoir, Wild Game, that came out a couple of years ago. Well, here we've got Ken and Abby Gardner lost their mother when they were small. Their father, Adam, is a brilliant oceanographer who raised them mostly on his own. He's now a successful businessman with political ambitions and a picture-perfect family. And Abby is a talented visual artist who depends on her brother's goodwill, in part because he owns the studio where she lives and works. So the novel opens, Adam is approaching his 70th birthday. He's always managed his bipolar disorder with medication, but he's determined to make one last scientific breakthrough. So he has secretly stopped taking his pills. And meanwhile, Ken and Abby are both harboring secrets of their own. And there's a new person on the periphery of the family, Steph, who doesn't make her connection known. So there we've got a Little Monsters, and we've got a beach, folks, for you. Summer read. Next, we've got Famous in a Small Town by Viola Shipman. Viola Shipman is the pen name of Wade Rouse, and he has written a number of these books, and they're books that are like a homage to his grandmother, to values that a lot of times we haven't taken really seriously over these last couple of years, and we've kind of overlooked. He actually was out at our house this weekend with his husband, Gary, and we had the best time. And this book takes place in Michigan area where there's a lot of cherries. So I actually made him cherry brownies, which are very easy to make. I'm going to give this recipe right now. It's a box of the brownie mix, a can of cherries, and 3/4 of a cup of oil. And all of a sudden, I was like a genius as making these brownies for him the other night. So what happens in this book, and why do the cherries figure in? For most of her 80 years, Mary Jackson has endured a steady invasion of tourists, influencers, and real estate developers who have discovered the lakeside charm of Good Heart, Michigan. Waiting patiently for the arrival of a stranger, she's believed since childhood would one day carry on her legacy, the Very Cherry General Store. I even had cherries out on the counter this weekend, folks. I really went all out on theme with an author. So Peggy Thatcher came to Good Heart to forget that she's just turned 40 with nothing to show for it. Very early in the book, she realizes that the guy she thought she was going to marry is no really going to work for her at all. And she walks away from this man, and her parents keep trying to egg her on to keep marrying her, which is one of the reasons she leaves town. These are early things, people. I'm not giving that much away. So she ends up at the general store with Mary. It's not a beach vacation she expected, but more the feisty octogenarian talks about destiny, the stronger Becky's memories of her own childhood holidays become, and strange visions over the lake she was never sure were real. As she works under Mary's wing for the summer, she starts to believe that destiny could be real. And I will tell that there's a cherry spitting contest as part of this book. So just keep that in mind. And the car is cherry red on the cover. Next, we've got Tom Lake, coming from Ann Patchett. Couple of things about this book. First, it's coming out on August 1st, and it's coming on that date for a reason. Anne is a bookseller, as many of you know. It runs the Parnassus Bookshop down in Nashville. And she always feels that a lot of the big books are weighted at the beginning of the summer. And she doesn't want to wait till the fall. She wants to come out in August, which she feels like is still a great time for people to be doing summer reading and a chance to be able to sell into the fall and have people still looking for the book. So she picked this date as a date that she wants. And this book is also set in northern Michigan. And where are we doing again? We're picking cherries. It's the spring of 2020. Lara's 3 daughters return to the family's orchard in northern Michigan. While picking cherries, they beg their mother to tell them the story of Peter Duke, a famous actor with whom she shared both a stage and a romance years before at a theater company called Tom Lake. As Lara recalls the past, her daughters examine their own lives and relationship with their mother, and they're forced to reconsider the world and everything they thought they knew. So there we've got Time Lake. Now it's got daisies on the cover. Do not be confused. We're still talking cherries here, folks. Next, we've got The Favor from Adele Griffin. Adele is the 2-time National Book Award finalist for her YA books. This is her first adult title. And I've been reading this. I've tried to read parts of all of these books so that I have some more background to talk to you about. And it's really interesting the way she's got this whole thing set up. At I'll Have Seconds, a high-end fairy tale vintage shop in Manhattan, Nora Hammond loves nothing better than pairing a rare find with the perfect client. At home, Nora grapples with the bleaker reality of enormous debt, tiny apartment, and ever-dwindling hope that she and her husband, Jacob, will have a family of their own. Spend a lot of money on in vitro treatments, all kinds of things for her to get pregnant, and they're really in a really tough position. So socialite Evelyn Elliott charges into Nora's life, and I mean charges in the beginning pages of the book, to come in and buy some clothes. And the women immediately spark a connection. And Nora is jettisoned into the heady whirl of money, New York's money elite. As Evelyn's stylist and confidant, Nora needs to learn all the new rules of engagement for the ultra wealthy. But it isn't until Evelyn decides that her next cause is to carry a baby for Nora that these rules and this unlikely friendship are tested. I love the fashion at the beginning of this. She's coming in and she's buying these fabulous vintage clothes, and she racks up a huge order at the beginning. And as a result, Nora gets some of the commission, or she gets a huge commission off of this. And her husband says, is this money real, or is she going to return the clothes next week? Like, can we really spend this money? And she says, I think this one is definitely a keeper. I think she's going to be spending it. We can spend the money. Next, we've got The Wife App by Carolyn Mackler. Carolyn, too, was a YA author who wrote some really, really terrific YA books and also has a great sense of humor. Well, I bring you The Wife App, and I'm reading The Wife App simultaneously as well, where we've got Lauren, the mother of twins, who stumbles on a dirty secret that explodes her marriage. When Madeline learns that she might lose her child to her ex in England, it stirs up a decades-old personal tragedy. Sophie obsesses over her ex-husband's family 2.0, all while keeping her true desires hidden even from herself. Starts as a joke one night when they're out and they've had a couple of drinks, as Lauren, Madeline, and Sophie rail against everything wives do for free. Let's build an app that monetizes the mental load and maybe get revenge on her exes in the process. So soon the Wife App is born, and before long, it's the fastest growing startup in New York City. Then life intervenes, love intervenes, ex-husbands intervene, and the consequences are bigger than anything Lauren, Madeline, or Sophie could have expected. Now, I'm at the part where the app has just been bought because you buy this app online. By like 100 people have bought their services, and they have no idea how they're going to start doing all these errands for people. And for one of them, I believe Sophie is trying to help get a child into preschool, and she's writing off the applications and doing everything. And it is something a wife would do, but now she's being paid to do it. So they're really funny tasks that they get along the way, some serious, some very, very lighthearted of things they've got to do. Next, we've got The Better Half, and it's by Ali Frank and Asha Humans. I am a huge fan of these authors. They wrote 2 books earlier together, Tiny Imperfections and Never Meant to Meet You. Now, these 2 met when they were teaching in the same school together. Actually, Asha Humans was a kindergarten teacher, and Ali Frank was in one of the administrative offices. And I think she was the one that was in charge of like new students coming into the school. So they used to sit there together and say, you know what, the material we get right now, we got to do a book someday. So that was Tiny Imperfections in the second book. And now we've got the third book. And they were an interesting pairing because Allie's white, Asha is black. And one day, Allie was coming back from her parents' house up in Sun Valley, heading back to Washington State where they live. And she called Asha and she says, let's have a conversation about race. Are you up for that? And they started to talk about the things that are different and the same for them that happen in life. They also always talked about at school, we need to write a book, because every time something would happen, they go, oh, that's going in the book. And they also talked about how you would have a child that came in, and then you'd see the father, and the father was really hot looking. And they used to say, that child's getting in. So it was very, very funny stories. So in this book, after a difficult 5 years, Nina Morgan Clark's time has finally arrived. With an ex-husband relocated across the country, her father bouncing back after the loss of his beloved wife, and her daughter Zandra thriving at boarding school, Nina is stepping into her dream job as a trifecta, a first-generation Black female head of the storied Royal Hawkins School. To mark the moment, Nina and her best friend Marisol take a long overdue girls' trip to celebrate the second half of Nina's life, which is shaping up to be the best part of her life. As Nina's school year gets underway, all seems to be progressing as planned, but before long, wonder hire Jared Jones relentlessly pushes Nina to her ethical limits. Soon after, dutiful Zandra accuses one of her teachers of misconduct. And most alarming, the repercussions of her trip with Marisol force Nina into a life-altering choice. So there you've got The Better Half. They're a lot of fun, always fun writers. Oops. Next, we've got The Connollys, A County Down by Tracy Lang. And some of you may remember her as the author of We Are the Brennans that came out, I believe it was 2 years ago. It's coming out on August 1st. When Tara Connolly is released from prison after serving 18 months on a drug charge, She knows rebuilding her life at 30 years old is not going to be easy. No money, no prospects. She returns home to live with her siblings, who are both busy with their own problems. Her brother, a single dad, struggles with the ongoing effects of a brain injury he sustained years ago. And her sister's fragile facade of calm and order is cracking under the burden of big secrets. Life becomes even more complicated when the cop who put her in prison keeps showing up unannounced, leaving Tara to wonder what he wants from her now. While she works to build a new career and hold her family together, she finds a chance at love in the most unlikely place. But when the Connolly's secrets start to unravel and threaten her future, they all must face their worst fears and come clean or risk losing each other forever. There's the Connollys of County Down. I have this one on my shelf. I'm looking forward to it. Next, we've got Banyan Boon by Tai Fai. And what's interesting about this book is each year, HarperCollins picks a book each quarter that everybody gets behind, and it's called their lead read. And Banyan Moon is this title this quarter. So when Anne Tran gets the call that her fiercely beloved grandmother Min has passed away, her life is already at a crossroads. In the years since she's last seen her, Anne has built a seemingly perfect life, but it all crumbles with one positive pregnancy test. And now she returns home to Florida to face her estranged mom, Huang. Huang is simultaneously mourning her mother and resenting her for having the relationship with Anne that she never did. Then Anne and Huang learn that Min has left them both the Mannion house, a crumbling old manor that was Anne's childhood home. And under the same roof, for the first time in years, mother and daughter must face simmering questions of their past and their uncertain futures, while trying to rebuild their relationship without the one person who's always held them together. It's Banyan Moon. Next, we've got Colson Whitehead's Crook Manifesto, and you recognize many of these characters from Harlem Shuffle. So it's coming on July 18th. 1971, Ray Carney tries to keep his head down. His days of moving those stolen goods are over. It's strictly the straight and narrow for him now, until he needs, love this one, Jackson 5 tickets for his daughter, and he decides to hit up his old police contact Munson, fixer extraordinaire. But Munson has his own favors to ask of Carney, and staying out of the game gets a lot more complicated. Now, I do love this reference to getting the Jackson 5 tickets, because any of us who were trying to get concert tickets in the 70s, remember that there was always the store that sold the tickets. For me, it was a drugstore in Jersey City where I was working over the summer. And you'd go over and you'd stand on the line early, but if you knew the person, he'd put the tickets aside for you and then go over and just pay over on the side. So I think that was a little crook manifesto on my part. So let's go now. It's 1973, and Pepper is Carney's endearing, violent partner in crime. It's getting harder to put together a reliable crew. So Pepper takes an extra side gig doing security, black poison. I'm going to do this one wrong again. Blaxploitation shoot in Harlem. He finds himself in a freaky world of Hollywood startups, up-and-coming comedians, celebrity drug dealers, hustlers, mobsters, and hitmen. 1976, Carney's wife Elizabeth is campaigning for her childhood friend, the former assistant DA and a rising politician, Alexander Oakes. When a fire severely injures one of Carney's tenants, he enlists Pepper to look into who may be behind it. Our crooked duo must battle their way through a crumbling metropolis run by the shady, the violent, and the utterly corrupted. So there we've got Crook Manifesto. Let's get some fiction set at the beach. I'm going to start off with Ellen Hildebrand's 5-Star Weekend, which I just got the New York Times list that will be coming out. I guess it'll be not in Sunday's paper, maybe next Sunday's paper. And this is, of course, a #1 selection. This is a 5-star weekend. Many of you remember that Ellen has said that she's only going to be writing one more book that is set like a big summer book like this, and it's going to be the summer of 2024. There is talk that she will be writing some YA books with her daughter, so we shall see what comes to pass. So here's what we've got in this one. Hollis Shaw's life seems picture perfect. She's the creator of the popular food blog, Hungry with Hollis, and she's married to Matthew, of course, a dreamy heart surgeon. But after she and Matthew get into a heated argument one snowy morning, he leaves for the airport and is killed in a car accident. The cracks in Hollis's perfect life, her strained marriage, and her complicated relationship with her daughter, Caroline, grow deeper. So when Hollis hears about something called a 5-star weekend, one woman organizes a trip for her best friend from each phase of her life, her teenage years, her 20s, her 30s, and midlife. She decides to host her own 5-star weekend, but the weekend doesn't turn out to be a joyful Hallmark movie that she planned. So I think that there's something really interesting to think about that, of finding a friend from your teenage years, your 20s, your 30s, and midlife. I also like, where's midlife? Your 40s? Like, where is midlife? Am I in midlife now? And putting these people together and bring them away for a weekend. So you can all plan your own 5-star weekends. I'm trying to figure out who from my 20s and 30s, who would all get along. Next, we've got Happy Place from Emily Henry. And I'm including this because this book has, as of last week, when I saw the numbers, sold 355,000 hardcover copies. So any book is doing something like that needs to be on summer reading lists. So this is a bit of a rom-com. And we've got Harriet and Wynne, who've been the perfect couple since they met in college, except now, for reasons they're not discussing, they don't. They broke up 5 months ago. They still haven't told their best friends, which is how they find themselves sharing a bedroom at the main cottage that has been their friend group yearly getaway for the last decade. Only this year, Harriet and Wynne are lying through their teeth while trying not to notice how desperately they still want each other. After years of being loved, how hard can it be to fake it for 1 week in front of those who know you best? And yes, I see the movie, and I know you do too. Next, we've got Beach at Summerlee by Beatrice Williams. I will share that Beatrice Williams, we've decided in the office, gets the prize for the longest about the book copy. And we have cut this down significantly. So just know that whenever we're in the office and we're trying to say, how are we going to talk about this to people? We trim. It's on sale on June 27th. June 1946, as residents of the Winthrop Island prepare for the first summer season after the war, a glamorous new figure moves into the guest cottage at Summerlee, the idyllic seaside estate of the wealthy Peabody family. While Amelia traveled the world, Amelia Winthrop spent the war years caring for her incapacitated mother, Olive Rainsford, traveled the world. As the summer wears on, Amelia develops a deep rapport with Olive. But the Peabody's patronage is blown apart by the arrival of Sumner Fox, an FBI agent who demands Amelia's help to capture a Soviet agent who's transmitting vital intelligence on the West's atomic weapon program from somewhere inside the Summerlee estate. Folks, in April 1954, 8 years later, Summerlee is boarded up, and Amelia has rebuilt her shattered life as a professor at Wellesley College when shocking news arrives. The traitor she helped convict is about to be swapped for an American spy imprisoned in the Soviet Union, but with a mysterious condition only Amelia can fulfill. A reluctant Amelia is summoned to CIA headquarters, where she's forced to confront the harrowing consequences of her actions that fateful summer. So there you go, The Beach at Summerlee. Next, we've got Welcome to Beach Town by Susan Wiggs. An idyllic Alara Cove, a California beach town known for its sunny charm and chill surfer vibe, it's graduation day at the elite Thornton Academy. At Thornton, the students are worldly and overindulged children who live in gated enclaves with spectacular views. But the class valedictorian is Nikki Razziola, a surfer's daughter who's there on scholarship. To the shock of everyone in the audience, Nikki veers off script while giving her commencement address and reveals a secret that breaks open the whole community. Her accusation shakes the foundation of Alara Cove, pitting her against the wealthy family whose money runs the town. Her new notoriety sends Nikki into exile for years, where she finds fame, but not fortune, overseas as a competition surfer, until a personal tragedy compels her to return to Alara Cove. So this is our first surfing book, people. I've got 2 for you. Here we go. If you'll find it later. This is My Magnolia Summer by Victoria Benton Frank. You may recognize the Benton Frank in her name. Yes, she's Dorothea Benton Frank's daughter, Victoria. And she's been writing this book for a couple of years, sort of picking up her mom's mantle of writing summer books that are set down in South Carolina. So In New York City, winter never seems to lose its hold. And for South Carolina transplant Maggie, the balmy beach weather of April back home on Sullivan's Island feels like a distant memory until a call from her sister Violet changes everything. Gran, the treasured matriarch, has fallen into a coma after a car accident caused by Maggie's troubled mom, Lily. But once Maggie returns, she finds that Sullivan's Island holds even more secrets. The Magic Lantern, the restaurant owned and run by generations of women in her family, is now rudderless, and her sister seems headed for a savage breakup. When the three generations of South Carolina women join forces, the family pillar Gran, troubled Lily, impulsive Violet, and redoubtable Maggie, anything is possible. So there's Magnolia Summer. And Ellen Hildebrand has said this enchanting novel will bring romance and sunshine into your summer reading list. Next, we've got California Golden by Melanie Benjamin, whose last book was The Children's Blizzard. I don't know how many people read that book. I picked this book report at bedtime, but I was cold the entire time I was reading the book. If you remember, it took place in the Midwest, and there was a big snowstorm that came in, and this was absolutely historical fiction. And the teacher had to decide in a one-room schoolhouse whether to send the children out in the blizzard or to leave them in the schoolhouse where there was no wood for the fire. So immediately I was cold reading this one. So I'm ready to be warm with California Golden with Melanie Benjamin this time around. It's coming out on August 8th. So here we've got Southern California in the 1960s. In an era when women are expected to be housewives, Carol Donnelly breaks the mold as a legendary female surfer struggling to compete the male-dominated sport, and her daughters Mindy and Ginger bear the weight of her unconventional lifestyle. The Donnelly sisters grow up enduring their mother's absence, both physically and emotionally. To escape questions about Carol's whereabouts and to chase her elusive affection, they cut school to spend their days in the surf. From the first time on the board, Mindy's a natural, but Ginger, 2 years younger, feels out of place in the water. They grow up and their lives diverge. Mindy and Ginger's relationship ebbs and flows, but through it, their sense of duty to each other survives as they're forever connected by the emotional damage they carry from their unorthodox childhood. And reading these books is making me think of Taylor Jenkins Reid book that had to do with surfing a couple of years ago. So surf's up in the books world, everybody. Grab your board. Okay, now we're going to do some historical fiction. We've got some great titles for you. The first is Lisa C's Lady Tan Circle of Women. This book is fantastic. It's one of my bets on selections, but more than that, I think it's her best book. For those of you who read Snowflower and the Secret Fan and remember going and Googling foot binding immediately, this book is the book you want to be reading right now. I actually just heard her speak today in the city, and it was interesting. Lisa was not planning to write this book in 2020. She had her eyes on doing a book that would require her to go deep into China. And she knew she probably wasn't getting there in 2020. And they look like 21, 22. She probably couldn't even get there now. And so she turned around and found a book on her shelf that started her on this journey about learning about a woman doctor in the 15th century. And she did some looking around and found this woman, Tan. And as she was looking her up, she realized that Tan had written a book and had been translated into English, and she ordered it and got it in 24 hours. And it sent her down the rabbit hole of doing research about this woman and telling her story. And she said all of a sudden, she didn't feel like she was alone anymore. Like really, she was despondent, she said, because she felt like she would never write again. And what was really interesting at the same time is the woman who translated the book lived about 3 miles away from her. So they started to correspond on Zoom. She started speaking with all kinds of professors and scholars who knew things about this time frame. And that all formed the circle around where she would start writing this book. So here's what we've got. According to Confucius, an educated woman is a worthless woman, but Tan is being raised by her grandparents to be of use. Her grandmother is one of the handful of female doctors in China, and she teaches Tan the pillars of Chinese medicine. From a young age, she learns around women's illnesses alongside a young midwife in training, Mei Ling. The two girls find fast friendship and a mutual purpose. No mud, no lotus, they tell themselves. From adversity, beauty can come. When Tan is sent into an arranged marriage, Her mother-in-law forbids her from seeing Mei Ling and from helping the women in the household. She's to act like a proper wife, embroider foot-brown slippers, pluck instruments, recite poetry, give birth to sons, and this is a big part of the book, and stay forever within the walls of the family compound, the garden of fragrant delights. Absolutely a terrific book. It is a complete page turner. I just sat down and started reading this. If you told me to have interest in a woman in the 15th century in Lisa's hands, you absolutely are there and you want to read this book. I also did an interview with Lisa recently where there's a lot of background on the book. So if you haven't had an opportunity to see her on tour here, it's on our Book Reporter Talks To podcast and also on the Book Reporter Network page on YouTube, if you want to give the interview a listen. And it's about an hour long. We go very in depth on the subject. Next, we've got House of Lincoln by Nancy Horan. And Nancy was decided to write this book because she was so well vested in Springfield, Illinois, which is where she grew up. You probably recognize her name as the author of Loving Frank, and she hasn't written a book since Under the Starry Sky, which came out in 2014. And since 2014, she's been researching and writing this book. Showing intelligence behind society's expectations, 14-year-old Anna Ferrera lands a job in the Lincoln household, assisting Mary Lincoln with their boys and with hostess duties borne by the wife of a rising political star. Anna bears witness to the evolution of Lincoln's views on equality and the Union and observes in full complexity the psyche and pain of his bold, polarizing wife, Mary. Okay, so let me just stop here for a second and bring up that Anna, this was something that I didn't know about. A number of people came from Madeira, outside of Portugal, and they came here to the United States and they ended up landing in that part of the country. So the fact that these people were living there is something that's infused into this book, and it's something that I did not know anything about. So along with her African-American friend, Cal, Anna encounters the presence of the Underground Railroad in town and experiences personally how slavery is tearing apart her adopted country, culminating in an eyewitness account of a little-known Springfield race riot of 2008. The House of Lincoln takes readers on a journey through historic changes that reshaped America and that continue to reverberate today. Nancy does a terrific job with this book. I found myself, it was a page turner once again. And I did another in-depth interview with her where we got into what, got her to write this story and what she learned about Lincoln when she was growing up in Springfield. Again, available the same places, either on the podcast or on YouTube. Next, we've got Fiona Davis's The Spectacular. And we all know how spectacular Fiona Davis is. So here's what we've got in this story. It's New York in 1956, when 19-year-old Marion Brooks comes across an opportunity to audition for the Radio City Rockettes. She jumps at the chance to exchange her predictable future, marrying the guy that everybody thought she'd marry, for the dazzling life of a performer. Meanwhile, the city is reeling from a string of bombings orchestrated by a person the press has nicknamed the Big Apple Bomber. With the public in an uproar, the police turn to Peter Griggs, a young doctor who espouses a radical new technique, psychological profiling. As both Marion and Peter find themselves unexpectedly pulled into the police search for the bomber, Marion realizes that if she hopes to catch the culprit, she'll need to stand out and take a terrifying risk. And just think about this. The Rockettes all walk in form. They all kick in form. And what she's realizing, she has to stand out, which is a very different thing than what she's been brought to think about in life so far. She's also probably going to be forced to sacrifice everything she's worked for, as well as the people she loves the most. So Fiona, I think, is going to hit it out of the ballpark once again. And she's touring a lot. I don't know where she's actually headed, but here's a spectacular, and I'm probably going to try and interview her at some point. Next, we've got The First Ladies by Marie Benedict and Victoria Christopher Murray. And many of you know them from their first book, The Personal Librarian, which was a huge hit. This is coming next week. The daughter of formerly enslaved parents, Mary McLeod Bethune, refused to back down as white supremacists attempt to thwart her work. She marches on as an activist and an educator, and as her reputation grows, she becomes a celebrity. Eleanor Roosevelt is eager to make Mary's acquaintance. Initially drawn together because of their shared belief in women's rights and the power of education, Mary and Eleanor become fast friends. When Franklin Delano Roosevelt is elected president, the two women begin to collaborate more closely. Eleanor becomes a controversial first lady for outspokenness, particularly on civil rights. And when she receives threats because of her strong ties to Mary, it only fuels the women's desire to fight together for justice and equality. And it looks once again then at the life of the First Lady Eleanor and how she was very untypical of First Ladies of her day. She was outspoken. She did have deep thoughts. And if she found that there was a cause that she wanted to celebrate, she was on it. It'd be very interesting to read the take of both Maria and Victoria on this book. Next, we've got The Wind Knows My Name from Isabel Allende. And I heard her speak about this book. She's actually funding a charity right now that helps people who come across the border. Can't remember the name of it, but if you Google her name in it, you'll find, because she's absolutely passionate about what's happened for so many people right now that are trying to just get a better life for themselves. And she's going to do a couple of contrasts here about children and what happened. She's got Vienna, 1938. Samuel Adler's 5 years old when his father disappears during Kristallnacht, the night his family loses everything. As her child's safety becomes ever harder to guarantee, Samuel's mother secures a spot for him on the Kindertransport train out of Nazi-occupied Austria to England. He boards alone, carrying nothing but a change of clothes and his violin. Arizona, 2019. 8 decades later, Anita Diaz and her mother flee looming danger in El Salvador and seek refuge in the United States. But their arrival coincides with the new family separation policy, and 7-year-old Anita finds herself alone at a camp in Nogales. She escapes her tenuous reality through her trips to Azbahar, a magical world of the imagination. Meanwhile, Selena Duran, a young social worker, enlists the help of a successful lawyer in hopes of tracking down Anita's mother. What she's saying is a lot of history repeats itself, and that's a lot of what she wants to talk about in her book. Next, we've got The Invisible Hour by Alice Hoffman, which is coming on August 15th. On one brilliant June day, when Mia can no longer see a way to survive, the power of words save her. The Scarlet Letter was written almost 200 years earlier, but it seems to tell the story of Mia's mother, Ivy, and their life inside the community, an oppressive cult in Western Massachusetts where contact with the outside world is forbidden and books are considered evil. But how could Nathaniel Hawthorne have so perfectly captured the pain and loss that Mia carries inside her? Through a journey of heartbreak, love, and time, Mia must abandon the rules she was raised with at the community. As she does, she realizes that reading can transport you to other worlds or bring them to you, and that readers and writers affect one another in mysterious ways. She learns that time is more fluid than she can imagine, and that love is stronger than any chains that bind you. Kristen Hanna's got a quote on this fantastic mystical journey that celebrates the joy and power of reading and dares to believe in the impossible. So there we go, The Invisible Hour. Next, we've got Evergreen by Naomi Hirahara. It's coming on August 1st. I loved her first book, which was called Clark and Division, which came out, I believe it was 2 years ago. Now, I always thought that when people were put in camps during World War II, Japanese people were put in camps, I thought all the camps were in California. And I didn't realize that people were relocated to Chicago. So her first book, Clark and Division, and for many of us who know those cross streets in Chicago, the book was set there and what happened to her family there. So now it's been 2 years since Akio Ito and her family were released from the Manzanar Detention Center and resettled in Chicago with other Japanese Americans. Now the Itos have finally been allowed to return home to California, but the entire Japanese community is starting from scratch with thousands of people living in dismal refugee camps while they struggle to find new houses and jobs in overcrowded LA. So remember, they left everything. They went to the camp. They went to Chicago. Now they're back, place where they used to live, not there. Aki is working as a nurse's aide in the Japanese hospital in Boyle Heights when an elderly Issei man is admitted with suspicious injuries. She seeks out his son. She's shocked to recognize her husband's best friend, Babe. Could Babe be guilty of elder abuse? Only a few days later, Little Tokyo is rocked by the murder at a low-income hotel where the Watabes stayed. What secrets have they been hiding? And can Aki protect her husband from getting tangled up in a murder investigation? She does a really good job of pairing the history, which she's done a lot of research on, with telling a really great story. So I'm looking forward to Evergreen. We've got some World War II historical fiction, and I've broken it out because I know that some people are still passionate about reading these books, and others are shying away, saying there's not, the same kind of interest. First, we've got the postcard. This came out on May 16th, and it's by Anne Berest, and this has gotten such wonderful feedback from people. It's from a small publisher called Europa Editions, and people who have read this are just like blown away by the story. It's January 2003. Together with the usual holiday cards, an anonymous postcard is delivered to the Berest family home. On the front, a photo of the Opera Garnier in Paris. On the back, the names of Anne Berest's maternal great-grandparents, Ephraim and Emma, and their children, Naomi and Jacques, all killed at Auschwitz. 15 years after the postcard is delivered, Anne, the heroine of this novel, is moved to discover who sent it and why. Aided by her chain-smoking mother, family members, friends, associates, private detective, graphologist, and many others, she embarks on a journey to discover the fate of the Rabinowitz family, their flight from Russia following the revolution, their journey to Latvia, Palestine, and Paris. What emerges is a moving saga that shatters long-held certainties about Anne's family, her country, and herself. So this book, I'm telling you, when people are reading this, it's getting lots of wonderful feedback, so worth exploring. Next, we've got Goodnight Irene by Luis Alberto Urrea, and this is actually based on stories that his mother told him. It's not her story, but based on things that she told him, because she was one of the donut dollies during World War II. In 1943, Irene Woodward abandons an abusive fiancé in New York to enlist with the Red Cross and head to Europe. She makes fast friends in training with Dorothy Dunford, a towering Midwesterner. And together, they're part of an elite group of women nicknamed Donut Dollies, who command military vehicles called clubmobiles at the front line, providing camaraderie and a taste of home that may be the only solace before troops head into battle. After D-Day, these two intrepid friends join the Allied soldiers streaming into France, and their time in Europe will see them embroiled in danger from the Battle of the Bulge to the liberation of Buchenwald. So there you've got a really different kind of a story of what happened in World War II. And then we've got The Paris Daughter by Kristen Harmel. This is just out. In Paris in 1939, young mothers Elise and Juliette become fast friends the day they meet in the beautiful Bois de Boulogne. My French is horrible, people. My Spanish is also bad, so I just make up the words a little bit. Sorry. Though there is a shadow of war creeping across Europe, neither woman suspects that their lives are about to be irrevocably changed. When Elise becomes a target of the German occupation, she entrusts Juliette with the most precious thing in her life, her young daughter, playmate to Juliette's own little girl. But nowhere is safe in war, not even a quiet little bookshop like Juliette's Librairie de Rêves. And when a bomb falls on their neighborhood, Juliette's world is destroyed along with it. More than a year later, the war is finally ending, and Elise returns to reunite with her daughter, only to find her friend's bookstore reduced to rubble and Juliette nowhere to be found. What happened to her daughter in those last terrible moments? Elise's desperate search leads her to New York and to Juliette one final fateful time. So we've got The Paris Daughter. Next, we're going to do some thrillers and mysteries. First is Drowning by T.J. Newman, the rescue of Flight 1421. Now, some of you may remember that T.J. Newman 2 years ago were Falling. And this is one of the few times I've ever seen a book cover where the covers look very, very similar. And I think that they're doing this because it was such good branding that they figured they'd try it again with this book. TJ was a former flight attendant, And so when she's writing these books, she's writing from some real background on what happens on airplanes. And this one, she had to do a lot of other research for as well. And I'm hoping to interview her. 6 minutes after takeoff, Flight 1421 crashes into the Pacific Ocean. During the evacuation, the engine explodes and the plane is flooded. Those still alive are forced to close the doors, but it's too late, and the plane sinks to the bottom with 12 passengers trapped inside. More than 200 feet below the surface, engineer Will Kent and his 11-year-old daughter, Shannon, are waist deep in water and fighting for their lives. There's a little backstory on this, because Will is actually in the process of divorcing his wife, and she has said, why do you have to take this child from Hawaii, where the flight is out of Honolulu, over to, I believe she's going either Washington or Oregon for summer camp, or San Francisco for summer camp. Why are you taking her? Everybody else is just putting the child on a plane. She feels completely like, why are you doing this? You're treating her like a child. And now all of a sudden, mother is really, really happy that she's with the child. He's with the child because at least she has somebody with her. Their only chance of survival is an elite rescue team on the surface, led by professional diver Chris Kent, who's Shannon's mother and Will's soon-to-be ex-wife. And they have to work together with Will to find a way to save their daughter and rescue the passengers from the sealed airplane, which is now teetering on the edge of an undersea cliff. There's not much time. There's even less air. And any of you have been following the story of the ship, the vessel that is under the water right now that was going to search the Titanic out, you're learning so much about how it's hard to find these things. When you do find them, how are you going to get people out? How are you going to get people up? And while she knew a lot about airplanes, TJ didn't know anything about being trapped in the water. So when she wrote this book, she did a heck of a lot of research. Next, we got The Whispers by Ashley Adrain, and I included this one because her novel, The Push, last year was so terrifying to me. It was just such a well-done thriller. And those who read it will never think of pink little mittens on little girls the same way again. Not destroying anything, just think pink little mittens. So here's what we've got. On Harlow Street, the well-to-do neighborhood couples and their children gather for a catered barbecue as the summer winds down and drinks continue late into the night. Everything is fabulous until the picture-perfect hostess explodes in fury because her son disobeys her. Everyone at the party hears her exquisite vernier crack, loud and clear. Before long, that same boy falls from his bedside window in the middle of the night. And then his mother can only sit by her son's hospital bed, where she refused to speak to anyone, and his life hangs in the balance. And what happens next over the course of a tense 3 days as each of these women grapple with what led to that terrible night? So there we've got The Whispers. How well do you know your neighbors? Next, we've got Ruth Ware. Ruth Ware, this is not a locked room story. This is 0 days. It's just out this week. Hired by companies to break into buildings and hack security systems, Jack and her husband, Gabe, are the best penetration specialists in the business. But after a routine assignment goes horribly wrong, Jack arrives home to find her husband dead. To her horror, the police are closing in on the suspect, Jack. Suddenly on the run and quickly running out of options, she must decide who she can trust as she circles closer to the real killer. So 0 days left to find the person. And we've got also another big summer thriller from The Only One Left by Riley Sager. This is also out now. The Hope family murder shocked the Maine coast one bloody night in 1929. While most people assume 17-year-old Lenora was responsible, the police were never able to prove it. Lenora has never spoken publicly about that night, nor has she set foot outside Hope's End, the cliffside manor where the massacre occurred. It's now 1983, and home health aide Kit McDeer arrives at a decaying Hope's End to care for Lenora. Confined to a wheelchair, Lenora was rendered mute by a series of strokes and can only communicate with Kit by tapping out sentences on an old typewriter. One night, Lenora uses it to make a tantalizing offer. I want to tell you everything. As Kit helps Lenora write about the events leading to the Hope family massacre, it becomes clear there's more to the tale than people know. And you always know that's going to happen in a thriller. There's always going to be more than you're supposed to know. And I do want to know that this woman was there since 1929. Like there were no Uber Eats delivering to her. There was no overnight package service coming from anybody. I'm very interested to see how she lived her life and was it her staff. I need to figure this out. Next, we've got The Block Party, and The Block Party is by Jamie Day. It's coming on July 18th. The residents of the exclusive cul-de-sac on Alton Road are entangled in a web of secrets and scandal, utterly unknown to the outside world and even to each other. The night of their annual summer block party, there's been a murder. Who did it and why takes readers back 1 year earlier as rivalries and betrayals unfold, discovering what the real danger lies within their own block. Nothing and no one is ever as it seems. Boy, these towns between these two people, it makes me wonder about my neighbors. My neighbor across the street, she's not out much, but I see on Tuesdays and Fridays, the garbage truck comes. Food's delivered on Wednesdays. She comes out to her mailbox once a day. I can tell what day of the week it is on Wednesday because her generator goes on to refuel. So, I mean, what do I really know about this person? I'm not sure. This book might be missing from your leave behinds. I'm sorry about that. It's Windfall by Wendy Corsi Staub. It's coming on July 11th when 3 former roommates reunite for a birthday weekend in Las Vegas. The lottery ticket they buy on a whim has the winning numbers, giving them a $1 billion windfall. They turn to Shay Daniels, a sudden wealth manager, promises to guide them through the pitfalls of having more money than they ever imagined. The trio travels to a secluded California mansion where Shay and her staff cater to their every whim. The house is purportedly cursed, the last place a missing movie star was last seen alive, and their weekends turn to terror as they discover they're trapped. And when history repeats itself and one of them disappears, the one who's holding the $1 billion tickets, the others must fake as a fact that either their friend has betrayed them or a predator is still lurking. Either one, not so good, folks. Next from Kathleen Center, we've got Hello Stranger coming on July 11th. Sadie Montgomery never saw what was coming, literally. 1 minute, she's celebrating the biggest achievement of her life, placing as a finalist in the North American Portrait Society competition. Next, she's dying in a hospital bed, diagnosed with face blindness. She can see, but every face she now looks at is a jumbled puzzle of disconnected features. She struggles to cope, hang on to artistic dream, work through major family issues, and take care of their beloved dog, Peanut. She falls in love, but not with one man, but two. Making judgment calls on anything right now is a nightmare. If only her life was a little bit more in focus, she might be able to have it all. Next, we've got Everyone Here is Lying by Sherry LaPena. Sherry LaPena writes these books that I call one-sit reads. Once I sit down and start reading them, I am not moving. So I start out usually by 11 o'clock in the morning in the lounge chair, read away on the floating chair in the pool, do anything I can because I cannot stop reading her books. She writes every other year. This one's coming on July 25th. William Wooler is a family man on the surface, but he's been having an affair that ended horribly this afternoon at a motel up the road. So when he returns to his house, devastated and angry, to find his difficult 9-year-old daughter, Avery, unexpectedly home from school, he loses his temper. Hours later, Avery's family declares her missing. Suddenly, the neighborhood doesn't feel so safe. And William isn't the only one on the street who's hiding a lie. As witnesses come forward with information that may or may not be true, Avery's neighbors become increasingly unhinged. Who took Avery Wooler? So there we've got the latest from Sherry, and I'm ready. Line up the beach chair. Next, we've got Prom Mom, which is coming from Laura Littman on July 25th. Amber Glass has spent her entire adult life putting as much distance as possible between her and her hometown of Baltimore, where she fears she'll be ever known as Prom Mom, the girl who allegedly killed her baby on the night of the prom after her date, Joe Simpson, abandoned her to pursue the girl he really liked. But when circumstances bring Amber back to the city, she realizes she can have a second chance, as long as she stays away from Joe, who's now married. Problem is, Amber can't stay away from Joe, and Joe finds it's increasingly hard for him to endure Amber. Against the surreal backdrop of 20 and 21, and what could be more surreal than 20 and 21, the two are slowly drawn to each other and eventually cross the line they've been trying not to cross. And then Joe asks Amber to help him do the unthinkable. So here we've got Prom Mom. Gone Tonight by Sarah Pekkanen is coming on August 1st. Catherine Sterling thinks she knows her mother. Ruth Sterling is quiet, hardworking, and lives for her daughter. All her life, it's been just the two of them against the world. But now Catherine is ready to spread her wings, move from home, start a new career, and Ruth will do anything to prevent that from happening. She knows her daughter Catherine would never rebel, would never question anything about her mother's past or background. But when Ruth's desperate quest to keep her daughter by her side begins to reveal cracks in Ruth's carefully constructed world, both mother and daughter begin a dance of deception. I love the way they put together these words, a dance of deception. Okay, Sandra Brown is coming with Out of Nowhere on August 1st. Sandra Brown is my August float in the pool read. I will have already done the one sit read, floating around reading Shari LaPena, and then I moved to Sandra Brown. This is coming August 1st at a Texas County Fair. Children's book author Elle Portman is enjoying a rare night out with her 2-year-old son, Charlie. Just as they're about to head home, a shooter opens fire into the crowd. Also caught in the melee is corporate consultant Calder Hudson. He's frustrated and confused when he wakes up in the hospital after undergoing emergency surgery on his arm. The doctor tells him that he was lucky. As far as gunshot wounds go, he pulled through remarkably well. Others weren't so lucky, which instills in Calder a furious determination to get justice, a goal shared by Elle. Their chance encounter at the police station leads to a surprising and inexplicable gravitation to one another. But even as the attraction grows, Elle and Calder can't help but wonder if the unimaginable tragedy brought them together is too painful and too complicated to sustain, especially while the shooter remains at large. And we haven't had a lot of books that we're talking about shooting like this. One I remember is 19 Minutes that came out years ago from Jodi Picoult, which was way, way, way long ago from now. And a number of authors I've heard have been thinking about putting something like this in their books. And publishers have been trying to sell them to shy away from it. So it's really interesting to hear that this is like an explosive beginning that Sandra's bringing into her book, because it is part of real life right now, but it's also a terrifying part of life. And it would make it a good thriller. But at the same time, where are we as a people right now? None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell is coming on August 8th. Celebrating her 45th birthday at her local pub, popular podcaster Alex Summer crosses paths with an unassuming woman called Josie Fair. Josie, it turns out, is also celebrating her 45th birthday. A few days later, Alex and Josie bump into each other again, this time outside Alex's children's school. Josie has been listening to Alex's podcast, and she thinks she might be an interesting subject for her series. Josie's life appears to be strange and complicated, and although Alex finds her unsettling, she can't resist the temptation to keep making the podcast. Slowly, she starts to realize that Josie has been hiding some very dark secrets. Before she knows it, Josie has inveigled her way into Alex's life and into her home. Just as quickly as she arrives, she disappears. And only then does Alex realize that her life and her family's lives are under mortal threat. Who is Josie Fair, and what has she done? If I interview Lisa Jewell, the question I'm going to ask her is, where was your little kernel of an idea for this book? Because she always has one thing that happens, and from there the book is born. And Lucy Folia said about this book, it's gloriously dark, so clever and completely addictive. This is Lisa Jewell at the very top of her game. Next, we got The Breakaway by Jennifer Weiner. And you know that her books usually come out in May. This is a real difference for her to be coming out on August 29th. 34-year-old Abby Stern has made it to a happy place. She's at peace with her plus-size body, at least most of the time, and she's on track to marry her childhood sweetheart, Mark. Yet Abby can't escape the feeling that something isn't right, or the memories of one mind-blowing night spent with a man named Sebastian 2 years ago. So when Abby finds she has a last-minute call to lead a group bike trip from New York City to Niagara Falls, she's happy to have the time away from Mark and a chance to make up her mind. But on the first day, she's shocked to see Sebastian in her tour group. To make things even worse, there's a last-minute addition to the trip, Abby's mother, whom Abby blames for her lifetime of insecurities she's still trying to undo. Over the next 2 weeks, strangers become confidants, hidden troops come to life, A teenage girl with a secret will unite all the writers in surprising ways, while all of Abby's certainties about herself, her mother, and the nature of love are challenged. I don't know if many of you know that Jennifer Weiner has become a distance bike rider. She types and says, let me get up in the morning in my home in Philadelphia. Let's drive to Baltimore for the afternoon. I will barely make it around the block on flat surface. So I always applaud what she's doing and watching it from afar. Next, from Karen Slaughter, we've got After That Night. And this is a Will Trent mystery, and many of you have been watching Will Trent on ABC. This is on sale on August 22nd. 15 years ago, Sarah Linton's life changed forever when a celebratory night out ended in a violent attack that tore her world apart. Since then, Sarah's remade her life. A successful doctor, engaged to a man she loves, she's finally managed to leave her past behind her. Until one evening, on call in the ER, everything changes. Sarah battles to save a broken young woman who's been brutally attacked. But as the investigation progresses, led by GBI's Special Agent Will Trent, it becomes clear that Danny Cooper's assault is uncannily linked to Sarah's, and the past is not going to stay buried forever. So after that night, everything comes to fruition again. I'm bringing up something here because I've been looking at covers over these last couple of days, and we're going to work on a program that we're going to do on our Zoom program. We're not going to do it on the site in the fall, where we're going to interview cover designers, because I feel like cover designers are very much unsung heroes, because so much what draws you to a book is the cover and how the cover looks. And I'm going to try to pull together some people to talk about the covers they made, how they do cover design, and some of the more iconic covers that they've done together. So we're going to be working over the summer to try to pull that together, because I think covers are something that fascinate people. And we really don't know how much about how they do come together. We do know that at certain times, big accounts, big stores or whatever will sit there and say, we don't like that cover, and cover changes are made. But beyond that, we're really not sure what goes on. Next, we've got, I think this one also is not on your list. I'm sorry. It's Good Bad Girl by Alice Feeney. It's out on August 29th. 20 years after a baby is stolen from a stroller, a woman is murdered in a care home. The two crimes are somehow linked, and a good bad girl may be the key to discovering the truth. Edith may have been tricked into a nursing home, but at 80 years young, she's planning her escape. Patience works there, cleaning messes and bonding with Edith, a kindred spirit. But Patience is lying to Edith about almost everything. Edith's own daughter, Cleo, won't speak to her. Someone new is about to knock on Cleo's door, and their intentions aren't good. With every reason to distrust each other, the women must solve a mystery with 3 suspects, 2 murders, and 1 victim. If they do, they might just find out what happened to the baby who disappeared, the mother who lost her, and the connections that bind them. So there's Good Bad Girl. Do 2 memoirs, biographies, and nonfiction. First one I chose because it's set in Atlantic City. It's a memoir from Jane Wong. It's called Meet Me Tonight in Atlantic City. In the late 80s on the Jersey Shore, Jane Wong watched her mother shake ants from an MSG bin behind the family's Chinese restaurant. She's a hungry daughter, frying crab ragoon for lunch, a child sneaking naps on bags of rice, a playful sister scheming to trap her brother in a freezer before he traps her first. She's part of a family staking their claim to the American dream, even as this dream crumbles. Beneath Atlantic City's promise lies her father's gambling addiction, which causes him to disappear for days and leads to the loss of the restaurant. Debut memoir, she tells a new story about Atlantic City, about making do with what you have and what you don't, and what it means to be both tender and angry, and what is strength without a vulnerability and humor. Meet Me Tonight in Atlantic City. And last, we've got Never Give Up by Tom Brokaw, who's the New York Times bestselling author of The Greatest Generation, besides being my favorite news broadcaster still. It's a prairie family story. Tom Brokaw's father, Red, left school in the 2nd grade to work in the family hotel, the Brokaw House, established in Bristol, South Dakota by R.P. Brokaw in 1883. Eventually, through work on construction jobs, Red developed an exceptional talent for machines. Tom's mother, Jean, was the daughter of a farmer who lost everything during the Great Depression. Although they didn't have much money early in their marriage, Red's philosophy of never give up served them well. His big break came after World War II when he went to work for the Army Corps of Engineers, building great dams across the Missouri River. Late in life, Red surprised his family by recording his memories of the hard times, reflections that inspired this book. And I think that's such a great book to like end on, because we want people to say we never give up. So there's Never Give Up by Tom Brokaw. Here are some notable June paperback releases. First is Carrie Soto is Back by Taylor Jenkins Reid, which is where I learned how to score tennis, how to watch tennis. I knew nothing about tennis, but after this, I can now communicate with our editorial director, Tom Donadio, who knows everything about tennis. Family Remains by Lisa Jewell, Ratecomer by Jean Hanff Korelitz, The Maze by Nelson DeMille, Tom Perrotta's Tracy Flick Can't Win, and Louise Penny's A World of Curiosities. And I've picked 17 books so far this year that are bets on selections, books I'm thinking you'll love. I've got 2 others coming up, which will be The Nasty Haran, The House of Lincoln, and Lady Tan from Lisa C. Be adding those in the next week. And here we've got some recent videos and podcasts I've done. We've been doing a number of these recently, and I have a lot planned going into July. They're long form interviews. We don't talk short when we do these things. They're not limited to 30 minutes. They're not limited to 15 minutes or the 3 minutes you get on the Today Show. They're long explorations into why the authors wrote the books. And I enjoy doing them. And I hear that readers enjoy listening to them. So I hope you will as well. And with that, thank you to all of you for listening this evening. And here's to a great summer of reading.
Thank you, Carol.
Was that what you wanted? Is that what you wanted?
What we wanted. It was awesome.
I'm so glad. I wish I was
You're getting applause here.
Any questions, but I think it's a very different reading list. It's a really wide reading list for the summer. And I hope everybody goes directly from this room to place all your holds for the books. There you go. Whether you're listening to my audio or print, wherever you're doing, it's time for you to go reserve.
Thanks, Carol.
Thank you so much for having me. Always. I love it. Thank you so much.
Great to have you.
Okay. Talk to you soon.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.